He almost put it down to a formatting error. 7 years in accounting teaches you that numbers don't lie, but spreadsheets sometimes do. So he checked the formula. Then he checked the source data. Then he checked it a third time because what he was looking at was not possible. Not unless someone very senior at the firm had been doing something very illegal for a very long time. David Marsh had spent 7 years as a senior auditor at a mid-sized private equity firm managing roughly $2 billion in assets for institutional clients, pension funds, university endowments, municipal investment pools, conservative clients, clients who trusted the firm with money that was not theirs to lose. David's job was to make sure the numbers the firm reported to its clients matched the numbers on the inside. For 7 years they had, until they didn't. In the spring of 2018, David was running a standard quarterly reconciliation when he noticed a discrepancy between two internal ledgers, one that was shown to clients, one that was used only for internal accounting. The gap was small at first, $800,000. He flagged it to his supervisor, who told him it was a timing difference that would correct itself. It didn't. By the next quarter, the gap had grown to $4.2 million. And when David dug back through 5 years of records, which he had every right to access as a senior auditor, the pattern became impossible to ignore. $180 million in management fees had been collected from clients under fee structures they had never agreed to. Fees that had been buried in reporting documents designed to obscure them. Now here is where David's story takes a different path from most whistleblower cases. He wasn't dealing with a government contractor. He wasn't dealing with Medicare fraud. He was dealing with securities fraud, which falls under a completely different program. One that most people, including most lawyers, don't fully understand. And one that had recently paid a single person $114 million. The SEC Whistleblower program was created in 2010 as part of the Dodd-Frank Act, the financial reform legislation passed after the 2008 financial crisis. Its logic was identical to the False Claims Act, but applied to securities law. If you provide the SEC with original information that leads to a successful enforcement action resulting in over $1 million in sanctions, you are entitled to between 10 and 30% of the total sanctions collected. No government employment required. No need to be an attorney. You just need to know something the SEC doesn't, and be willing to tell them. Since 2012, the program has paid out over $2 billion to whistleblowers. The single largest award, $279 million paid to one individual in 2023. David spent 3 weeks documenting everything before he contacted an attorney. 3 weeks of going into the office, sitting at his desk, opening the same spreadsheets, and acting as if nothing was wrong. He told his wife, no one else. And on a Tuesday evening in July 2018, he filed a tip with the SEC's online whistleblower portal. Then he closed his laptop and waited. The SEC does not move quickly. That is by design. They investigate quietly, gathering evidence before the subject of the investigation knows they are under scrutiny. For David, this meant continuing to work at the firm for another 11 months. 11 months of performance reviews, team meetings, holiday parties, client presentations where he sat in the room and watched senior partners describe the firm's integrity and transparency to pension fund managers whose money had been quietly drained for years. He describes it now as the longest year of his life. In month 9, David's attorney contacted him with news he had not expected. The SEC had not just investigated the fee fraud David had reported. Using his documentation as a starting point, they had uncovered a second separate scheme involving fictitious investment returns reported to clients, a fraud that had been running for 8 years and that David himself had not known about. The total sanctions under investigation had just tripled. The SEC issued its enforcement action in September 2019. The firm was ordered to pay $260 million in disgorgement, interest, and civil penalties. 3 managing partners were charged individually. The firm was dissolved. David's whistleblower award was calculated at 22% of the total sanctions attributable to his original tip. His payout? $28.4 million paid in 2 installments, He was 41 years old. He has not returned to accounting. Here is the part of this story that David wants people to understand. He did not consider himself a hero. He considered himself an accountant who found something wrong and used the tools that existed to report it. He was afraid the entire time. He almost withdrew his SEC tip twice. And the thing that stopped him, both times, was rereading the statute and understanding that the law had been specifically designed for people in exactly his position. If you work in finance, as an accountant, an auditor, a compliance officer, a financial analyst, a fund administrator, you are in one of the highest probability positions in the economy to encounter information that qualifies for the SEC Whistleblower program. The program does not require you to be certain. It requires you to have a reasonable belief that a violation has occurred. You report it. The SEC investigates. If they find what you reported and sanctions exceed $1 million, you get paid. David got $28 million for doing math. The next video covers 3 other cases from the financial sector, including one involving a junior analyst at a hedge fund who earned $42 million while still in his 20s. That video is up next.